disappearing into a wall, speaking distantly. I had no desire to catch anything. Seeming more physical than all objects, I remarked, unlike the other bugs in the system, everything else I observed so far almost shimmered. This was scary. This face was tangibly warped, not in a metaphysical sense akin to the hallucination or conjuring, but was warping, breaking, or losing signal, but instead looked crooked or damaged. Both. He was a farm animal. Tossing his shears into the sink across the room, and they skated the inside of the porcelain and jumped out. They hit the ground and let out a sound. I got up and crossed the room to the sink and caught sight of my new hairstyle in the mirror, and like him had a short brown bowl covering my head. I picked up the scissors and placed them on the edge of the sink. He cheered. "You like it? Great." Now interacting with the reduced mood, less sassy and friendly, instead now wholesome. "How much?" I inquired, using a style-pitched voice, attempting to bring it back to my say in the sass frontier as a defense mechanism. The demon brought the mood friendlier, watching him fail to take notice as I had. Smiling at this thought, the demon was missing from everyone else, not coherent or there. I appreciated his engorged breasts and wanted a taste. Existing as a strange thought, I was calm, really truly calm, in the movement, and stayed for a stay. Around a male peer, a friend for now, he failed to get my hint and bared his teeth, squinting at the work, and said, "Some." I handed him some legal tender, the town's currency I was originally paid in, minted in the desert city of Astrodia. I asked him if he ever ventured to Astrodia. Speaking, he said no and looked around some as I continued. I questioned him if he ever thought about going, and he said that he assured me he did. But the only time he ever was leaving town was when venturing out to sea. I moved the conversation towards this instead of Astrodia, ensuring me there were other places along the coast and islands, with tiny amounts of civilization, just off the beach. Unlike this city, they teemed with life. Reefs and craggy rocks hid sea animals, containing swaths of marine life and ecosystems they subsided off of, from fishing. The islands themselves embodied Serengeti with desert trees and shrubbery, wild grasses and swaths of birds, reptiles and even field mice also. He talked some on their great tortoise collective, who roamed free but acted as their community pets. Some lived on their shores, but you never found them around these parts. This city eaten by dunes, a tortoise from greener coastal portion might cross between places of nature. A private desperado crossing streets on his way down shore, maybe already fed. The only thing he hungered for was shrubbery, and all we had to offer was fish. I questioned him on fishing, and he only did it when his fishing family on their sailboat while growing up. They visited these fishing settlements on islands often to fish off the reefs. Their surplus of fish pulled from the water never ended. Fishing all the time with few other local families, catching large silver beauties of the same species which stayed high up on the reefs. Unable to navigate the closer reef sections with other swimmers due to their size. They existed in their ecological niche, and if any smaller fish ventured too far up off the reef bed, they were snagged, picked off by those larger reef mackerel. He paused to cross his arms, looking down to protect his throat, thinking about Astrodia. He told me it was intense. The city itself was set up like a massive oyster, with all the guts and innards still intact. The crown jewel pearl of the city was a bulbous opera house structure, misshapen as it had never been rounded by a jeweler, with metallic features that glowed purple when light struck it correctly. He convinced me, and now I wanted to visit. I assured him. Continuing, he said the place was a civilization oasis, which grew from the bed of the earth, where even out in the desert the water was accessible, found from the shallowest flat, collected places deep underground. Lakes, it appeared, had been left uncovered by concrete. In certain places, water never dried up fully, and marshes dug into the sand flat existed endlessly. The water, sitting stagnant, could be used for a variety of purposes and added water spaces to the city for viewing. So the concrete grew around them as the foundational slabs. Concrete overly expensive, so in most places, the flooring was replaced by cement besides the roads. The roads paved like the old roads I paced along through the woods. Surprisingly enough, is what they did with the city's waste under the roads. They ran massive pumping pipes from shit silos and a single powering factory to the lowest point of the town, building proportionally upon the town above sewers, which held waste and runoff from the occasional rainstorm. Flooding it with water they pumped from the ground, keeping it submerged in water at all times. They treated the treatment facility as it flowed to block the water from draining unless scheduled to empty some, using the waste to make fertilizer. Everyone used water to clean their asses, so the fertilizer was mostly pure. I liked his ideas, but wanted to see more of the city for myself. He gave me a nice image of certain aspects of the area, but I refused to acknowledge the image of the place until I visited it for myself. I needed to breathe the air of the city and see if it matched my expectations. Confronted him about the plans this afternoon through evening. Only running in the spongy old shop, he said, with his body slumped over his swivel chair, rocking back and forth, his head staring at the ceiling, his chin pointed towards the clouds. Before leaving, he tilted up and stared at my face for the first time in judgment. He looked perplexed, like something was wrong. He could sense someone was missing, like half of me ignored his presence because someone else was with me in spirit. I'll be back. Stirred, I left in a hustle to fetch my girlfriend, who refused to settle without the luxury of waking up to me. When I arrived, I assured her there was no idea for me leaving so early this morning, even though at this point the sun almost centered down in the sky, only in and on the occasion of the spring equinox, since the days were no longer equals in unison with night. Instead, the sun bowled the sky, curving around with like a boomerang and setting. Now it was almost ricocheting movement, where it might begin its descent into the horizon line. Wanted to know where I was so informed of my previous location at the shop. Why did you leave? My facial expression changed. She continued, why not wake me up? In my head I pondered, since we failed our relationship of justifying to each other our true feelings, and how I loved her sleeping body too much to wake her. Not only her body, but her very essence. Strange, so I refused to express it out loud, instead of explaining. I just wasn't ready to go, and you weren't awake yet. She pouted and shrugged, and I did too. She complimented me on my haircut, and I appreciated her for this. She got up and gave me a smooch. We were physically a closer couple for now, so we might be a team again. I told her to clean herself off, and she looked disgusted. Secretly, this is why she originally left to work on the farm. My attitude was overtly sly and pimped in energy. A bad attitude. She wanted me to keep things overt. Our biology was switching beats now, and in my translation, all I could tell her desire was for communication. She was still in the mode for prosperity, while I was ready to move back into my own world of individuality. She wanted her way of lovey-dovey nothingness, while I needed to keep my head above gelatinous liquid love. I stayed in the game of success and wanted to let it ride. Needing to stay moving forward from the next plot landed cash. Like what I found in my pockets today before spending some of my new hair. A fantasy of nothing. I wanted to encourage her in some way to keep her motivated. Maybe we could live the lives of our dreams under the umbrella of the system. She had no care in either way, collecting me for now lost in her own fantasies of my capabilities. Only she knew that it wouldn't last without a constant surf of spontaneity and work. I believed woman in its essence tries to destroy what it learns and what it respects, if it only might understand why. In an effort to get them displayed for what they're worth, the only way to overcome them is by earning their respect. In respect, you might find yourself over them, in time ready to be impaled, by 8 inches or less, intelligently designed for no more or fewer. She wanted me to use my power for being whatever I needed, keeping us going, getting somewhere with ourselves and lives. Yes, she wanted me for company as a comparison to distract her, to keep her order for herself, and to pull my attention away to keep it on her. It was absurd, an enigma how they wanted to consume what they relied on. A smart farmer would know only to reap what they've sown and grown, what was not ready to be processed into fine-grained dough. Then off to the baker's oven for the rise, if she can manage this, which was so far going splendid. The only last tasting reward last night. Unfortunately, this cow was not ready yet to be milked again. She was now squeezing out dry udders. A lot similar to my behavior with her real-like soft breast. Occasionally now, since otherwise they might become nipple-chapped. Maybe she could someday find herself such an experience with a baby. I promised her once of her future becoming a mother. All this soon after I first met her, and for this reason wanted to make love to me at first sight. I was getting distracted, and she already had me close in her entirety. She wanted me to discuss my head trauma in more depth, how it was affecting my life and my ability to focus. We did this as we left. Her little girl lips squirted a sentence. How do you manage so easily? I responded, I just stay open to everything. I reminded myself that I locked the door behind us with our few belongings in the room. We dropped down the stairwell, listening to the click-clack of our boots hitting each step. We stopped at the bottom of the stairwell as I opened the door with her gouache eyes caught mine. She asked with a concerned peep, how often are you contacted? I looked at her with her nose crunched and preached. It's starting to subside, don't worry. I opened the door and with anxiety and disappointment she exited the stairwell to the lobby. Chapter 7, Venturing to Astrodia. I tried staying out of my false reality as she paced behind me walking. Hit or miss, keeping my senses busy with the hallucinations, which were more vivid but caused less of an emotional reaction, and I could ignore them. If I indulged, I found myself emotionally invested. I might escape all heinousness by thinking fast and acknowledging what was real and what could damage me, allowing the conjurings to address me then leave as they please. They reciprocated my mood and behavior, and staying in an open person saved me from any real damage. I addressed them like I would any sentient being. I satisfied them by communicating or acknowledging them. As my friendly self, I avoided them becoming hostile, and they passed by. I explained this to Avery on our way to the shop I previously visited. This was the first time I audibly addressed the strategic interactions I was having with the demons, and she had no words. I made an open subject, and like anything that communicated on the level of people, or for all I knew were of higher social prowess, they acted around me, wanting me to perform for me and lecture me as teachers as I told her. She looked at me like a pest, and I treated her like a fool. Agreed for now, and she hoped they wouldn't stand in the way of me addressing this dangerous world. Needed me to stay vigilant against all hostilities. So long as I stayed distracted in action and left me alone, I reminded her of this. Only reality remained any time I acted with swiftness. The desperate world I inhabited was besieged when I let my guard drop. So far, this beast of an alternate plane only suckered me during times of rest. She understood as I spoke, and thought the lectured her would watch the chit-chat. I desired speed, but she had the distracted conjugations of my explanation. Satisfied in my cracking, I vented my internal world and reality. According to her, I needed to conquer any creations before they escaped, and as they attacked, I couldn't push them aside. Refusing the demon the title of the devil for now, she had dared me to attack him. 3 strikes and he's out. I agreed as we entered the shop. I introduced her to my friend, and he ducked his head in respect, but only as property. We exchanged glances silly, such as performing a masculinity dance. Assuring me the satisfaction of his penis felt, leaving no room for jealousy. A hustler's wink of plantation set a property owner himself. We were messing with each other, and had a splendid gentleman's chemistry, and our bond was cemented. Our behavior was almost ironic, but I wanted to break it down to use my mind against the woman who had me pinned. She would be silly, took my behaviors all seriously, and now was a liability towards my fragmented reality. I looked her in the eyes, she glanced at my new pal, nabbing her psyche in my gaze next, and she wasn't careful. One day of invading her mind, she might see the conjurings too. Staring up as I passed reality into thinking my new friend let me fly. As usual, she was out of control, letting us both go inwards. The women owned us as children, we fooled nobody. We were acting like boys, and she gave us another signal glance, and he knew to let her act as the pretended doll. In youth, we let ourselves find expansive behavior as pro-social and casual people, unlike previous group relationships restricted by our professional verbose business contract. I knew a perfect specimen even as a straight man, with his gorgeous blonde layered helmet hair. We treated each other like we were talking ourselves, using the power of masculinity and the projection of ourselves onto each other. I joked to myself that the property as woman could never fully understand us. Overly obsessed with their individuality, they might never comprehend the bonds which created our boyhood interaction. We competed as juiced each other's social prowess, riffing back and forth expressing moves leaning from each other. Collective woman as property is an ignorant bliss, especially my girlfriend. She had no idea the level of complexity we were working with, and neither did we. Our interactions were both solely on impulse, and it used creativity to boost our spirits, which explained why we both conquered women. They could not resist their own conquering skills of such sly domination. Only against the women we prospected. We prospected their pussies. They held gold. In the moment when we were balls deep in their vulval gateways, we knew they had this vice-scripted moment when their penile pressure consuming our most prized possession squirted his life. We controlled their bodies as we pushed towards and ending their unstoppable conquest of obscenity and chaos as they controlled our obsessions, and only together against their bodies, mind held tight, in behavior and action, could we dominate their personalities to the point where they were practically men. Led us failures to the female race, attempting to masculinize themselves over all men to the extent they held pretend penises between their legs. Nonsense. They needed the energy to stimulate the power men held in their penile domination of all life. Failures giving up all power to the men and his penis as they desired vaginal conquest, exploding in pleasure against the failed men with their lack of social prowess to get laid. Disturbed, we worked together to boast each other into higher ground, myself and a new comrade. Feel alien against the domineering huss known as my girlfriend, allowing her to lavish in her splendor of unconscious belief that she led the upper hand against us. Only in our face value of disregarding her gorgeousness did she behave against us. With the last look, we dominated as a pair against the disappointment her life brought, from simplicity with the older gentleman to tango with 2 men with matching haircuts. Not only in youth could her fabulous fertile gash be caressed after a night of splendor. The setback gets to be dealt with. We continued along with the younger gentleman, overly helpful, refusing to crack against another comrade. Intelligence combined, we caressed this woman in a hammock of penile acceptance, keeping her warm in a time and inconsistency. A befriended woman with complementary prowess, she did not disrupt the natural bondage between brethren. Nothing but help could be forged between these two men. My son, the boyfriend, caught in projection a long time with her who lavished with his new companion and equals. In opportunity and beyond the man, dominated her in better worth, keeping her professed in womanhood. Her mind and track dominated their silly seeming outward interaction as she pleased. Meanwhile, their beautiful bond functioned in tune with God above her simplistic mind's eyes of individualism. Nothing compared to their dual consciousness prepared together to justifiably cast her beneath their shared experience. From my perspective, something one might fail to ever comprehend in their belief of superiority against our penal insignificance, so long as we were together knowing better than to interfere with the boys could join their background complacent competition for entire control, keeping order against each other only to keep her down in a reign of spite against their demons of failure and their looks of disappointment of each other's misery. Myself stuck pinned down with my new friend stuck in the walls of his shack with whatever conjuring collective style the shop's layout created. In his case, acting feminine in avoidance, or otherwise he neither catered to her as I did to show respect to my woman. His suave sense informed me that he could join with local girls, yet sold himself to his shop. Another lost cause similar to myself, he was cast away in his duty, ruined by catering to something besides himself. At least he never needed to cater to behavior of property, unless he occasionally talked with his walls, suiting their personality in the shop. I wanted to sleep. I was tired. We had mental mashed as she dominated. He remained untouched as I fell into an unconscious control. At best, I could fuck her at day's end, but he could remain above her as he ran to terror against her body. Jealous sets against each other, himself in freedom and string pulling, while my mind was controlled in satisfaction of reproduction, as I possessed her body only occasionally, as she controlled my behavior and catered to her every need as I continued our journey towards satisfaction in our moving lives. I felt nothing. He was now better than me for this reason. Casted back into reality, he howled in laughter as she brought up Astrodia. I joined him today to question you about the infinite possibilities for hell within the city of Astrodia. She read the room perfectly, as the chemistry was inserted into a new reaction. Her personality finally conjoined with us, adding feminine positivity and encouragement. He flagellated the air as we projected our lips forward in hidden power. The final drawn nine to her closed personality, she began to open up. Growing tired of understanding formalities, interested in Astrodia, she spoke to me with a fairy whisper. I really want to go back to the farm. I looked at her in concern and quiver-lipped quit. We need to keep moving forward. The shopkeep, now immersed in our drama, looked between us, beckoning a swerve of his chin to continue. Pondering, she frowned and spoke. I need to make sure you don't cause bad things to happen. I know, but so far at Chemos going forwards I have been successful. A more political, forward, and conservative tone took over the conversation. The expression of the shopkeep changed with his body posture erected and perched. His face relaxed in confidence and suave mood. She started to project words that mean a reaction by triggering a response to her behavior. The way she carried her moves forward were almost intimidating. She wanted my attention and was willing to be femininely aggressive, an age-old trick to get a man to settle into force. Her face lowered and darkened as her mouth opened. But we need to go back soon if we wanted to save enough money to be set up well enough to get us back to the woods. I would wanted a backup plan just in case Astrodia has nothing to offer us. I agreed, although I had no desire to bring myself down. I staged courageous that I had a better chance of steamrolling us through Astrodia, with my goal in finding us more contracting work where we could stay on our feet. Hopefully we would be brought to a larger company with new contractors. Beverly and Bert were nice, but I desired to be part of a larger team. I imagined a less personal, more professional environment where I could remain close connected to her while we worked apart as a crew with no desire to connect to us to get us to know us. Obviously they would learn our names, but beyond this formality of language exchange for instructions and working communication, nobody would question our personal lives. The friend we currently visiting to obscure more information about Astrodia chimed in. I guarantee there will be some opportunities there. The mood was hopeful as he continued. It's a large shipping center of the support of civilizations, down in the coastal especially. You could always find the way back over the mountains. I finished his thought and at least added up on it. Turned to her, I said, we could find work from one of these shipping companies. Maybe we can help in transporting things again. She thought I was cute, and my store owner friend looked at me and smiled. That could work, but it'd be difficult. I doubt you could just approach one of those companies for actual transport work. You could land a shipping job, but it might be hard to convince them in your experience of transporting. She said, we don't know how to drive 12-wheelers, and we have the people for that already. Are you sure you don't want to try and make it back to the other city? I chirped, no. That city was evil. They used the electricity as in the electromagnetic field the wires created to control the minds of others. Originally, I had learned about electromagnetic fields from the shopkeep I sold all my belongings from the trash lake to. Further than acquaintances, the village shopkeep was a community member of mine. He explained even the tiny motors for old toys created magnetic fields from the electric fields their wounded coils created. They pulled the tiniest balls of matter, electrons, which created a negative charge. Magnetic fields moved electrons along their gradient. Electrons jumped at the synapses of our neural connections, he informed me, the parts of our brain which wired together. Everything about us was electric because of our nervous system, which used electricity to control our very movement. I deduced that the magnetic fields created by the wiring of the city pulled our electrons to certain circuits, which could be programmed by a certain social atmosphere, forming the culture which dictated the mood in the air. In the electric creator city, the mood was always subordinating. The cult used the electric fields to tame the minds of others. In doing so, they could control the nerve impulses which created their behavior. Thus, the movements of the entire populace can center around the occult. The only people intelligent enough to fight the electric impulses with stagnant pressure from refusing to move, creating dull pain to contort the current of magnetic force quivering the electric field in their brain. The pain, sometimes pleasurable, inspiring new connection pathways to better advantage the wave impulses of the constant flow of electrons from the mysterious mega-Christ church city at the center, up its antenna, and distributing electricity throughout the city as pulsing wires, bringing life to every circuit, destination, electronic equipment, or entertainment device available, brainwashing all those who time and mental space fed their electronics. Where were the currents coming from inside the church? Probably stemming from something hidden and unethical, unnatural too. Astoria would be perfect for us to find work. Our coastal paradise, originally ruined, had been revitalized after being sent down the correct path by my old fisherman friend. I followed the path led by the light to him, escaping the old people who kept the mood down, reigning as the leaders of the workers who respected the hierarchy of age and would help create a negative environment for any who failed to acknowledge the elderly and their timeless authority. In all-powerful, awesome wisdom, my old man had guided me my fate some. I befriended him and used the curse of lameness had lifted it from me. Now once again I acknowledge myself, beginning an exciting part of my life of this coastal civilization. Until now, I failed to analyze this in my state of distraction, bewildered by the onslaught of spiritual courageousness against conjuring of central forces or otherwise. Now my dexterity of the umbrella of old folks' suppressing power had lifted. God rarely showed himself to me, but if I had followed the correct path, I may have sooner understood how the old workers in partition had power against me. Now I knew the elderly held me low through the angst of the social collective, as the workers held me up into light through the brisk movement, overwhelming me from both directions, being frisked about by the two collective bodies. In due time, all knowledge of the spiritual power of the two forces had been discovered through befriending two models of both parts of the collective body, the old man on the pier and the youthful owner of this quiet shop I was now visiting. The conversation continued. Well, if you're too hoping that I have connections to Astoria, you might be in luck. Once again, I reassured myself that my senses had guided me correctly in bringing me myself to the shop. Somewhere I knew the infinite eyes of the town, once undressed me, had pushed me in the correct direction with their gazes. Or rather, my drive has impressed my friend to want to help me further continue my quest to find what I truly needed, keeping my faith open and inspiring new ideas every day, giving me options to follow the dream, a blind pursuit, a life which inevitably might satisfy me and my girlfriend. We addressed the shopkeep. I knew I had made the right decision to venture in here this morning. This is very fortunate. Honestly, I was hoping he could push me in the right direction. I'm not disappointed. She looked at me as if I needed to say more. He also gave me a glance, providing more information. His look assured me that I was still in mental pleasure with my psychosocial framework. I also added a face into the interaction, indicating that it was her turn to talk. Her lips curled in exhaustion. Was she falling behind? What did you have in mind? I provided a glance to her, expressing my dissatisfaction in her ability to provide any more personality to the encounter. Remember that I landed these facial jabs in politeness. Reciprocating the polite tone, she asked her question. This stabilized her unconscious. Knowing that she all added to the mood, I returned her as she interacted with the friend I had made for us. Really did I need to do this for men. They held the conversational rhythm well in my experience. I made the woman I was with cuter as they relied on my feedback. Uncomfortable, all she wanted to do was return to the farm, and ventured further with something I pushed her into doing with me. He replied, I know a couple close to town which could transport you two for a reasonable price. They own cars. Of course, he held connections to everyone in town. He was a local and was obvious power play in the nature of networking. Just look at the day-created relationship we basked in. Two natural socialites. He was happy to help me out, but for what price? These thoughts danced in the background of my mind. Are you sure, she said, and continued. Wouldn't you rather wait a couple of days to make sure you don't change your mind? She rejected this term to me. I was working with excited energy and wanted to keep moving with it, even if it meant moving past her insecure anxiety. Back into my inner mind I fell. For the past 2 days, caught by reality, it was nice to have her together again so I could escape. I considered talking to her again. My friend dipped his head in defeat, knowing I was thinking, a real chore. I spurged from mental explorations, How would I think my way out of this question? I told her, nothing will escape us as long as we keep our ambitions up. My face was chipper and wound up. She looked uninterested now. Didn't know reassurance as I changed her mood. The best way to settle one was taking their edge. She was thinking for herself now, using her mind independently in her brain. I determined this by watching her face freeze with lips creased. Glazed over, her eyes focused up into her head at the back wall of her skull. She popped her lips open in excitement and proclaimed, I rarely admit when I change my mind so suddenly, but for once you might get exactly what you want without my judgment. But if this city is as monstrous in size and character like... She trailed off to look at her friend who sat motionless with a pleased gaze at my girlfriend. She hesitated, then asked, Sorry, I have no idea what your name is. I was never told or introduced, as you know. Thinking aloud, I said, Sorry, I never asked. Using a different tone, this is my girlfriend, Buxby. Using my favorite nickname for her, something I rarely gave away, I continued. Her full name is Avery Buxy Stillmet. I'm Seymour or Joyce Seymour Blackwell. Avery added, I call him Seymour sometimes because he's like my old cat named Seymour. I stuck out the friendliest hand gesture I had to offer, genuine enough for him to crack a smile before speaking. You can call me by the title of my shop while I work because I am one with my business. Cash Sink, or just call me Mo. As he thrusted his mitt to grab my hand and thrust his wrist cocked down to shake. First name Mo, last name Rebbings, or Cash Sink professionally. He pondered calling me Cash Sink while I worked as a sign of respect in these parts. Oh, that's interesting, I added. From where we're from, we usually call each other by nicknames, unless in a serious atmosphere. I said this with a gratitude at our shared interest in each other. She said this with her mouth, and I spoke in tandem with my eyes. He bowed at the tipping point of his face directed towards the ground, and the top of his head pointed at us, and he said it was very nice to meet both. So what do you need to do in order for us to help in leaving this place? She spoke this casually and coldly, as I opened and asked him if he wanted to join us. Maybe he could help escort. I trusted this man, unlike strangers. I was always keen on when I failed to receive an immediate reading from indicating their good faith, trying to avoid the wind-up of having this man bring us to people paid to transfer us across more desert, reasonable for one's lives as we traveled, only to have them be unsafe and unprepared. I didn't want him talking us to them only, for me to decline their service based on anything I found shifty. Bandoliers, bustlers, and bandito entered my mind to stir crazy. She noticed and brought the attention back to herself, insisting that we might both feel better having someone we already knew and trusted along for the ride. His body recoiled as his face drew back. I would gladly join you two, but as you can see, I have a shop to run. He paused to think before adding to his previous statement. Actually, why not? It's a day's drive there and back, and since I have never been due to financial hardship, I could use the free escort. The sly dog. He wanted us to pay for a seat alongside us. I needed to talk to these people about logistics. He told me they were a couple. When can we leave to meet this couple? That's right, they're a couple I'm glad you remembered, his face spoke. I traveled a lot and was always ready to see more action. 2 more days wasted in this gray paradise. I opened my mind to everything and wanted to see what happened. Soon back by the wheel one day, I'd be able to drive again. Mine had healed enough, as the surgery skull damage and brain swelling cut back. I dreamed of having my own car and racing across the desert on roads yet eaten by sand. Luckily, the trucks transported from Australia brushed a slit to the sides as they traveled, keeping the roads clear. My eyes took the sky like my spirit had raised to the uppermost part of my person. Hidden away, played in my skull. Again, triumph with the plan finally. We're in business again. When did you want to leave? Disregarding my girlfriend. Whether or not she cared, she was stuck with us. I mounted the situation. I felt a pang in my chest of guilt and stared at her baffled. Was she bothered by anything? No. Her face was blank. None of my disrespect was at the forefront of my behavior, and when she was in control of anything involving her. Appearing as a free spirit because of my presence, she was a wanderer ready for more experience. We could once again travel. Anytime you like, let me leave for a while. I need to arrange some people to look after my shop. So we all glanced at each other in agreement. Satisfied, I spiritually patted myself on the back for claiming my soul. She was in trouble, so we left soon after the shop for now. The glowing light fading as we stepped onto the paved steps of the porch. The shop was a beach house style off the roadside. The porch of the back patio was situated to be the store entrance with sliding doors. Stepping on cracks in the earthquake-broken sidewalk, we jollied. Glancing back to the blue-painted chain-hung letters at Cash Sinks, a title I only understood. Entranced by the chicken or egg situation, a timeless phrase my filthy, cruel father or pops had used, something I picked up from him. Was his name the Shops taking the title, or had he introduced himself as a shop wanting to be completely infused with his business? His somewhat suspicious behavior, I was unused to this formality. Regardless, I trusted that I was meant as non-threatening. I chirped at her in laughter as I kicked a street stone, a piece of cobbled, chipped cement off curb. All the street material was in slop besides the black tarred paved roads along the stretch of highway through the town. The remainder of the streets were slick cement. Luckily, it rarely ever rained, otherwise his tires might slip some. She ran ahead as I chased. I watched her butt move with the motions of her legs carried. I was proud of something, not her, not myself, but the relationship, including anything I was involved in. Her behind, her running, my chasing, our packing together, our barking and our waiting. Having packed everything, we returned to the fish house the final time. The sound outside was a neon style, but with shiny bent painted metal and material. I watched and prayed for her as she ate a massive piece of cod. I didn't want her to choke. Chance having the filleted fish falling into her windpipe. I kissed the air twice on my left and right sides, then ducked in my tuna fish sandwich. Like a dog, I savagely consumed bites of the food in my open mouth. I loved the buoyancy the mayo gave and the consistency of the tuna fish paste. I ate quite fast while she ate slowly. I enjoyed the feeling of eating while she liked the taste. I needed 3 cheap sandwiches, no less. For such a dangerous job, and for the distance traveled, our contract worth is paid decently luckily. Now I needed to keep enough saved to last, but in comparison to the food wealth, was an hourglass of time and money with grains of sand emptying. So for the time being, we consumed our heart's content. She looked at me laughing and smiling. This is good. There's nothing like this in the forest. Her mouth full, it sounded like she was underwater. The food was nothing like the farm in Oakwood, where everything tasted like bricks. The desert seemed to be fueled by a society commerce between points of civilization. Astoria was a half-day's drive, but they attained everything from nearby farms up in the mountains, so I was absorbed by the waiter when I talked about their ingredients imports in Astoria. She wanted to keep buying more food even after my 3 sandwiches and a fillet, claiming we have enough for 100 cooked fishes each. I was dumb. What an obnoxious child she was being. I noticed an old woman peeping up from behind her newspaper staring at me, causing something to move from my body. She was mirroring me and had captured some part of me. She was acting like my girlfriend combined with a divisive lover and was one of the old people who took part in keeping me down since entering town. She glanced up a second time wearing a face which asked me for my disapproval. Her face asked me if I wanted to keep my woman in check. I looked at Avery in the eyes and opened mouth in horror. We need to get out of this shop. Why? We have the rest of the day. We aren't supposed to meet back up until tomorrow, Avery spoke. I felt tense. Let's play and leave. Okay, here, I'll go pay. And so she did, giving the cashier money from her bag and receiving Bill's bag. Something was removed from me. I looked around for some time, noticing the passage of time while observing the room around me. I checked behind me and saw chairs and tables. In front of me was my girlfriend with the desk clerk behind counter talking. To my left was the wall. I put my ear up into it and listened, hearing nothing. To my right was the old woman sitting reading behind her newspaper. Their hands grasped around the edges were small, old, tired, torn, and brutalized, torn with wrinkles and small lines. Above the consuming her was the shape-shifting devil friend bulking to the weight of a Taurus in her like a gap-jawed snake. The old woman was being devoured while reading. The devil stepped back to look at me. After releasing her from his mouth, she dropped dead. My girlfriend rushed to her rescue, and I watched the demon duck into the waitress' shadow as I accompanied to aid. I watched until they gave up. No one came to help, and we left after watching her cooling dead body for 30 minutes. We monitored her corpse for some time, seeing if she might come back to life. I felt refreshed after seeing someone die, like something I couldn't face before it had finally shown itself, even if their soul had been eaten by the devil or demon that was haunting me. He hid in the shadows and only left to cause trouble, hiding in mind, keeping me comfortable, assisting me in tirade against those who controlled humanity, conjuring my mind in false beliefs that they're the problem and not him, or maybe not. Who was I to blame? The old woman creeping, or the devil trying to help me? Maybe. The old woman may have been considered an evil entity if I found myself engaging with her in conversation. After leaving my shadow to fetch the mortal coil from her as her life, they left me for the waitress. I had the feeling I would never see him, the eyes, or anything this civilization could conjure after leaving for Astoria. They were part of the city. After the collapse of the old woman, I was tense. As I calmed down and relaxed, I felt like something had lifted. In my shadows, the old people tormenting me, it waited for me to find a nice sacrifice. On duty, it waited, stirring up all misogyny, hatred, class, wellness, and spry to counteract the collective. The old woman had captured me, and out on business, the devil collected his contract as I had, devouring the old woman's soul as she died instructed. No malice or vengeance, that was for me if I chose. Instead, a clean kill and a tuna fish sandwich inspired tasty treat, soul sucked out and gone. Then off to the next young individual to assist in their lives. Catch what? The deontology of the devil. I spoke slowly, patient and concerned for nothing. Leaving today, we had re-met our friend as I changed business. Casuals and above walked through the dunes on the sand road. We didn't speak anymore since we needed to remain serious. Something about approaching a single house I expected on some desert road created a respectful atmosphere between compatriots. I never felt awkward in silence, yet I felt offset. Nothing was happening. I only walked. The house was a desert trailer park and it was mobile, comprised by a cabin on stilts and cinder blocks. Vehicles equipped for travel over sand were parked around trailers, and near the back sat wooden logs house. The porch had swinging planters holding desert plants like succulents, which swayed alongside their holders in the wind. 7 wind chimes taught me to enjoy their spark. The notes cut in the air even from a distance of light tones, mixed with the sound of breeze pushing against the dune grasses and sand. The mobile home sat on paved slabs, sand blown over parts in a layer of silt. Every step my feet sunk into the ground, the walking was exhausting. Every grain caving in under the weight, displacing a crater, refilling at every foot's removal. Taking 2 steps with every pace, one the initial impact, and the second the sinking and working in my legs deeper. Relieved as we stepped onto the slab. 7 trailers in total, some were situated with additional structures made from wood or metal plating nailed together. They functioned as workspaces, added to the homes. Desolate, they contained no art or decoration, only tools, equipment, or projects, like trying to fix old radios. Nothing stirred besides the wind chimes. No people were out. We walked up to the log cabin and the porch steps. In the corner, an old man hid, spoke and frowned like a bird. He frowned and flared his nostrils. Who are you folks? Our friends took over and dressed him immediately before anyone could think. Sorry, mister, do Trixie and Trillis still live here? On this lot of land? We turned around at a whistle and a man with one eye closed yelled. Well, if it ain't the radio whaler himself, Mo Remings. Mo hooted and hollered up and chuckled, having it praised. Trillis! It's Edward Trillis, ill up to you. They started spitting venom in their speech back and forth. Where do you think you're going with shedding your teeth around these parts, you dang fucking trucker? Mo expressed himself in his entirety, nearly following some ancient tablature in his talk, impeding his accent powers of speech. Dang right, I trucked once way back and dismembered you fucking year blocker. With from rather than his teeth block his tongue, Trillis explained. Mo let out a sound which mirrored the words to zinc meow. Trillis shot up at capitalist and Mo were to glance with the mirror the laser-eyed wild horse called, I reckon. So Mo, spill, Mo, man. Trillis pronounced back at the ground with the top of his neck, bringing his forehead to the ground. Spill what? What brings you to my place where we're all here again? I need help, I chimed in. Trillis, Mo beckoned. These fellows are looking for assistance out to Astrodia. The big man chimed in with wind tones in mind, keeping their pitch as he spoke. Nothing you cannot swallow, you scurvy your way around, you young pop sink. Cash Sick looked at him with ruined the game. He had used his nickname and part of reference to ruined man. The old man spit and swallowed. You can take our 4-wheel drive automatic if you need. Spill watching them and take our time deciding. A sign of prince from Pop saying cash money. I asked, how much? Sticking to business as usual, the people played along. As an outsider, they politely addressed me. 2 kilo crepes of whiskey from Trillis. They all laughed and I bellowed with. Not much money though, we continued. A last score with the gorgeous hips shaking, emphasized them as they walked. She let out a sound like spree. My woman spoke in with her eyes towards a woman who must have been Trixie, and they didn't compete. We pounced on her packed raw hot pavement. They may have melted if it weren't for the sand slip layer, reminding me not to run in danger of falling. Crashing down, I wasn't careful, beckoning them over to talk. Beeswax, 2 crates of whiskey. I spit twice. Beeswax. A little quieter. Except for the old man, everybody walked in style. I found my special pocket in the main pouch of my bag. My mountain climbing backpack and pulled out cash. I needed to show them the amount I had. Needed money advice more than anything. Disgracing Mo, letting him know I was a monetary novice. Well, look at you, sawspit. I'll take half and we're good to go. Everyone agreed besides me. I first asked. We certainly at least need a place to live once we make it. What are you looking for in my advice? Saw was not friendly. I wasn't looking for me or his manner that said I needed to present myself in a way that wasn't kneeled on the pavement with my cash from my bag. Mere children that copied my formalities. I wanted them to be adults, most of them were. Trillis felt disrespected, since I would be paying him and let my money spill to the ground. So I stood up after gathering my cash, organized, and counted. I know a place outside the city might be able to live for some time, but the conditions are much better than living inside of a barn cat. The other woman mustered. I looked up and the loud-mouthed woman asked, okay, what's your name? Trixie Millward Illip. She was not up and excited, looking like she might ride on him. Trillis, she against my girlfriend taking around him? I'm James Willard, but you just got by Willard, the old man preached. So it was decided and we all be going, Trixie jokingly spoke. Oh no, I looked back, I was why the caravan slide in the SUV was overdone. The paint dripped that the car was currently under length to fit all 6 of us. Seeing the dripping paint, I looked away. I won a first-class ticket rendezvous with one car. Now I was thinking Trillis and Trixie up front, me and my woman back seat driving and Cash Sink in the trunk. I joke, Cash Sink gets the trunk, and everyone laughed, especially Cash Sink. Oh, if you pay me extra splendid, others won't go? Taken aback, Splendid was spoken dehumanizing. He raped me with his words, taking my name. I was done conversating and was ready to leave for this taking the blow. The old man decided we would go with him behind Cash, Sink, Trixie, and Trillis Illip in the Doom Buggy. Time to escalate back to another place of power comrades organized. We packed our bags in the back of Whirly's all-wheel drive sports utility vehicle. They grabbed some smoked pork from the trapdoor leading underneath their porch. Some other locals came out to talk to Trixie using the South speak so violent I closed my eyes and held my breath. How dare you venture out of your business to pee on ours? Back off and you'll mind your own business next time. A beauty with her way of words was the last thing Trixie spoke to me before I left. I decided to trade places with her at the last moment. I was riding shotgun with the boys. The desert opened up in its vastness as we coasted away from Shore City. On our way in, we could only drive up to 20 miles per hour. Now we maxed out at 75. The desert cacti passing us were in open terrain. I could see for at least a mile. Looking at my face in the mirror, I noticed my eyes swelling. Head trauma has damaged it, and some blood vessels were broken. I took a closer look and noticed that the eye red only appeared to be swelling. A trick of the color, the red. Broken blood vessels made it look larger than the other. My nerves were up since we were going fast. I wish I'd slowed down. Disintegrating light, Trillis and his teeth reflecting like windows at night, they were so gray, dark, and rotten. Cash Sick objected to my negative face, let a peep slide. This peep conjoined me with Cash Sick's opinion of myself. I stole a glance from Trillis, and he only addressed me as a troublemaker. Not noticing this disregarding look, I gave his teeth. There was no space to look back, as we chased against the lineless dual-lane road. It stretched endlessly and curved up ahead. Then some more around the nothing but flat desert and grassland. We had descended into a marsh point containing no water, only dampness on the sides of the road. Trillis yelped and shook, finally free. No more loser town, he was offered to stay with me in fearless Ostrodia. I spoke out loud and Trillis exploded in laughter while Cash Sing didn't notice. My eyes also felt odd. Since we were in an open vehicle, the wind caused my eyes to become sweltered. I focused on this feeling. The constant watering and drying of my eye, especially in the space around my eyelids. The tears tried to keep my eyes comfortable, but were especially in battle with the impacting air from the car cutting the earth above hovering atmosphere. Every breath supplied by the same matter which bothered my body. I enjoyed the discomfort at the slow onset, blessing cleansing winds, sensations and feelings on my face, fueling the action, speed and movement. My friend Trillis wanted blood to fuel his high of freedom and control, so he bit his upper lip, flashing his lower teeth to everything. I pressed Cash Sink for information about the desert, and he told me every single grain of sand represented a teardrop crystallized by heat. His face vomiting expressed blood. His skin surface blushed by the friction, warmth and sun. Catching his skull, his skin wrapped it extra tight now. External forces keeping it taut, pressure and strain causing stress on the skin, bringing more fuel to our combined burst of life above the engine, keeping two systems moving, the combustion of fuel and body, teeth splitting like hog broke, busted and tail dock, not cock. The hog was a motorcycle busting by us, going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. Mo arbitrarily set the maximum tolerated hustle and allowed for another driver to handle with. The only other driver on the road, Mr. Mo, wanted to chit-chat. Envisioning the cyclist driving up beside our buggy, his dream was ruined. A good goal setter might choose something besides flooring the gas. Mo being friendly, smiling with his lips, only without signaling any reading from blocked teeth. Broken-hearted, his eyes channeled a different tone. They seemed hurt and washed in forgotten days of liquid dreams. A floored petal, we passed wild desert flowers, brushing them with stirred wind as we cut track, catching up to the hog driver. Trill Sink's style changes. His fame dropped, entered atmospheric. Wind brushed everything, morphed to a neutral. Cashing took our mood, bringing with the air side. Faced with representing the wind, speed, Mo frowned. The motorcycle is caught in a trance chasing the desert trees. The cacti field up ahead below the upskirt of Desert Valley mountain ranges. Short sections only considered hills. The rider kept his attention ahead of 50 feet, the closest distance the biker could get the motorcycle to stop. Once beside him on the left side of the road, our buggy's silent and stealth compared to the deafening blitz of its putt-putt engine, he looked over in new natural behavior. A different spry and surprise. Calmly his eyebrows read through soul underneath helmet shaded glass. Flexible elastic, tinted black. Full outfit painted dark brown as the leather artist of Ostrodia, used hogskin dyes and tar to create protective slippery, road rash repellent worthy protective gear. Coat and pants, everything covered the fanny. Trillis and Cold Eyes Blue took the wheel with corresponding panic from the motorcycle driver, swerving into his back wheel. Chipped as he sped up too late, as the back took up from the road, spinning, the bike propelled him across the front of the hood of our blood buggy, sending him out into the desert, skipping stone to death. Crumpling and hopped, Eyes pierced, pupils centering with dark and smelling lines, coursing the iris tight. The white and final reading of every passing collection, tallying the honesty channeled, centering the pupil's upturned gaze. Only himself judged from the sclera channeled through the beauty of the iris dilation. Explosion with the collapsing movement into the pupil. Outwardly, the beauty cut back, overtaken by the enlargement of darkness in the black center into the inner sanctum of sense expired into the outer world as projected spirit consumed beauty into God. The infinite darkness digging into the pupil with hands pulling apart. Over the arms, the torso buried into the ground, under the jacket ending life. The arms of the road-catching black tar serpent pulling over the human entirely as a jacket for their sleeves, tattooing the life of a man maimed into death by Trillis' belief in superiority. The road's arms, the sway and the inconsistency of the road provides. Combined with speed or judgment, roadways or tire blessings, arms gained more combustion and tattoos. Desert cacti around the snakes curled in Trillis' images. A murder first or seventh, we continued. Unfortunately, what I envisioned cast flow of money sink, displaying his oasis setting of mind, and misery blank and exhaustion, exhilarated in murder. No man survived accidents after crumpling back, spinal cord snap, landing in quickly initial impact. I needed some time to form an opinion about action. Was it behavioral and moral? Yes. Did it leave a lasting impact on me? Not exactly. How many years would it take me to forget? I chose to ignore this thought, since forgetting was something left to an unimportant event. This event affected our mood in a positive way. We simultaneously dominated his life, killing him. This made us feel incredibly powerful, all busting in joy and laughter. I stifled mine since I couldn't empathize with him being another human being. I couldn't help it. The course of events held such a satisfying flow of timing that it almost appeared clever. On a whim, we drove up beside him. He glanced at us, and while trying to escape, we hit him. So close, we bumped into his back tire before flooding the sand with body. Escaping our wrath as a collective life cannibalism. Only colliding with pavement once before flooding the sand with body. A scorpion escaping our tires, he skidded to escape 12 seconds of road ecstasy ice skating, instead sand desert drifting a straight line into bumpy belligerent into desert shrubs, and into death I so believed. Trillis looked off for a while, checking in with Mo, and noticed a patch of singing trees in the distance. Here everybody loved themselves, they sang. The ghost of the desert hog rider conjoined his face onto mine as a hallucination face wrapping as we pressed into a closer space of the stars. Trillis decided to pull over by a small pond with 7 trees circling. 5 minutes passed while we screamed about what we could tell the old man and woman. The trees' branches were nice and fluffy material for dispersing seeds. I describe it as the poplar tree. Trillis and Cash decided to change the story for the women. We all believed that Willie still had some reason towards life something like this might happen. The first question was asking what happened to the old man on the motorcycle. I felt power surge from the holes in my head and along the portion from my eye, along my face where the caribou originally cursed me from. Feeling sensitive to the sun's heat and mood of the death they glowed. Without light, only internally, they caused my eyes to feel swollen, almost as if something extra was there. I witnessed myself lie as if reality was no longer existed, telling the truth of false reality I formed and thought, and letting free speech that was the actual truth. He tried passing us and peeled out from going too fast. The whole thing was rather silly. Looking because he passed us as I felt disappointed, like we needed to be going faster, only for his back tire to slip out and crash. Everyone agreed, and without hesitation, we all looked to the ground. Someone who was with us on our journey was now dead. Even if we traveled alone, they still represented a part of the community along the only visible part of civilization, being the roads out here connecting the cities to larger groups of people. So I respected them looking at the sand. The surge in the right half of my face and down my right arm rested back into my body. My eyes felt, if it looked demonic, relaxed enough, although intuition told me it might take some time to return to normal. Nobody noticed anything out of the ordinary, and after some time of shuffling we all decided to return to our own cars. Our buggy was open, so Trillis decided we would off-road somewhere with desert shrubs, coating the landscape before getting back onto the road. I felt off-put. Something inside was bothering me as we accelerated. Feeling nothing, Mo and Trillis started talking about the plan for the city. Halfway to Astoria, the only plan was to stop miles out from the city center at a small farm. I felt awful about watching Trillis end someone's life. Occasionally, people break into a group understanding of viciousness. Like hunting, we ramp ourselves up in the chase of something natural, needing to hurt something in order to rid ourselves of the instinct to predate. Together as young men, we have been raising our energy since meeting and mirroring the spiritual to center. We reached the point of our climax as we played. All of our construction of each other's personalities reached to a tipping point by taking another life. We cemented our feelings of self-worth with each other as we continued with our lives. Curious how we got away with our souls intact, I returned to trying to rest, leaning back against my seat and looking up into the desert sky, closing my eyes. I felt all sorrow now. The killing I took part denied me of any feeling in my body for the time being. I sensed power deep within myself, releasing any other sensation. All I wanted to do was sleep now. Everything around me drifted into the open, flowing air of me, and soon I needed to consume more food. Something I naturally found myself spending time doing was eating. Fish was available anytime I wanted to ask, so I did. Eating jerky tuna, dried under the scorching desert sun. It tasted plain. God wanted me to be fed after I conquested life. All I brought to the world interacted with death. Every interaction spoiled myself. It did not only push me further into the grave with time, but behaving with continuity in the nearly dead desert ecology and spoiled myself as I dodged all natural repercussion because the life we lived out here, with no ocean to supply our feeling of life, was leached with something different. The sun itself supplied us with solar energy. As our skin was illuminated, our eyes were forced to absorb everything. Pupils surrendering to our eyes, overtaking created life, as the white life danced with the design of nature, creating mandala inspiration and connecting tissue. Colorful, I glanced around the moving of the vehicle or the directed path, creating the road bothering me. An unknown portion of my mind, sensing my body, moved with the wheels as they glided, rolling and dancing with the pavement upon these mile-stretching roads. I switched emotional states, becoming uneasy. The desert seemed so lonely now. With the two other men, I faded into the background of the discussion. Drenched in shadows of my isolation amongst others, I closed my eyes again uneasy. They both were used to lives of the commotion of the desert atmosphere, which I found myself for the first time since tripping mountains, wanting to return to the shades of the woods on the south side of the range. I never expected to be lonely, but without her alongside in the foreign desert, I exploited my senses to keep me company. Trillis and Mo were considered by most to be incoherent ex-human beings. The light in their head meant to guide their path was now off. I favored the woods since their shroud. I basked in nature and found myself becoming lonely even if I was traveling and working by myself. Looking at all the life around me had connected me to the ecosystem as another human living body. Out here in the desert, while the ecology still existed, the vaster open terrain kept each cacti and shrub standing alone amongst the group. Individuals, they all followed the sun, and I picked up on this quickly. The trees in the woods blocked the light and consumed everything solar, so in the dark I enjoyed bathing myself in the mysticism of the ground and water. This in the near-distant past, I favored to keep my energy with the others high again, since I might otherwise fall into a rut. Remembering my goals, I co-opted ignoring the desert fauna. I needed the wild animal to understand my place here. Let down, I focused on the escape of Trillis driving fast. Closing my eyes again, I copied the small desert plants, enjoying the sun's energy without critiquing the discomfort of drowsiness it caused, smiling and laughing along to the play as we drove. Why all this goddamn time have we ignored the city's call? Cassidy was speaking as if everyone else three was avoiding Nostrodia. What do you think saved the time of your life, you moron? Connecting to each other, Trillis and Mo began speaking to each other back and forth. You know, I bless you, Trillis, but you have a car. I have my life set running my beautiful City Wharf store. Well, that's the truth, but all you had to do was ask for a visit. You're right. Return to Nostrodia, you know what this place is like. I only know rumors. It's more beautiful than you might ever imagine. The place crawls with joy. Trillis spoke with sarcasm, knowing things about Nostrodia were yet discovered. Mo looked at him with eyes of fun and ease. They laughed and I followed suit. Eventually, the mood changed and I stopped following their conversation, and the leading role of our collective social mood returned to me. I just looked out over the mountain hills in the distance. Less sand was out in these parts and the wind blew fiercely. I felt tensions from something unseen. We turned along a curved road now heading towards the hills, rolling valleys in this foreign desert as we drove, steadily rolling fast along our seats of wheels. The desert shifted again, turning into flatbeds of unshifting hard sand baked together by the cooking sun. We traveled along this section of the road until climbing up into hills, curling, turning back and forth to climbing elevation, only some since the hills were long and flat. The fauna returned as we climbed the steepness, including different variations of desert shrub species. We found past a river with a small tree along its basement. Ducks in the river, keeping cool, our passing made them spin, swimming in the loud noise, directed them to circle as we drove by. Most spoke calmly and cool, informing us they were getting closer. I wanted to stop to peace, and so we did. My tense feeling I was noticed earliest had lifted as we elevated. Relieving my bladder, I jumped back in. The air was cooler, but my clothes still soaked with sweat. I behaved naturally, ignoring this damp feeling. My stomach felt controlled, as if something was moving inside me. I waited a bit, twisting something to my left as I settled into an uncomfortable position. I tried working around this feeling by letting go until something changed. I either ignored this feeling, thinking about something else, or it disappeared. Whenever the car shifted slightly, I repositioned myself to resist the unrest in my gut. Tired still, I hunched over my knees to stare more intensely at the windshield between Trillis and Mo. This helped some as I could watch the car move along the road while seeing inside. My internal dialogue turned negative. Supernatural, I wondered whether what is inside me might be foreign to my body and not just the shifting of internal organs. Curious, I asked the two what they thought it might be, and only Trill answered. I've heard stories of the type of butterflies hatching in the stomach. Butterflies emit just stomach acid. The bags under my eyes sunk before my lower jaw followed. How would they get out? The sun was a naive question that Trillis took lightly, but most seemed annoyed. Darkening now, the sun was setting down over this far repeating hill of the scrunching valleys. I stared directly into the hot orange ball, feeling my stomach as if something extra was there. I returned my focus to the trail and let my worries out. Today I only ate dried fish in my tuna fish sandwiches. I hope I had no eggs in them. Mo glanced in the rearview mirror for a moment and, being himself, spoke without thought. I assure you there are butterflies in your belly, and that if they're only grub phase. Wait until they enter cocoon phase, because then the shifting will extinguish and be left with a full feeling. Mo, a young spirit feeling encouraged by this idea, had his own mental image. When they peel out from your shell, they might crawl up your windpipe, and you will find yourself opening your mouth to let them fly out and flutter away. I stopped paying attention, and instead focused on the anguish that I was being distracted. The movement felt similar to one larger twist of something extra inside me, and the knotted sensation it first caused me remain. I twisted again to remove the knot, and this time found some relief. The pain still held me mostly still, but for now moving from right to center side of my stomach towards my back. My woman, still in the other car, I had only real concern for myself, from myself. Luckily, at some point within the hour, I drifted into my consciousness, forgetting about the feeling, and when remembering the pain, noticed nothing now wrong with my internal belly. For the final time, I laid it down against the seat and fell into an exhaustion. Part 3! Booster shot bashed in. In this universe, everything lives in their existence processing alone. In this way, like most things, their time is spent relies most on self-performing confronting function of within daily computations and finding out what to do. Easily enough for everything, all notices each other and does not stop to rest, since all obesity obscenity seems to be of laid to rest. Metaphorically speaking, without things that cannot move, I have noticed a fluidity so divine it's almost as if the world was speaking without things that cannot move, spellcast into some fluid makeup. Where things go wrong is when others bring about things common natural discourse cannot comprehend within the individual's person's body. For once, not misunderstanding qualities of qualifies the meaning of one's maker representing medicine, as if change in said biology could be defined as something good constantly, since and because to worship a non-obvious loss leads to devastating effects. Just looks at something like worshiping God in comparison. Sure, bad stuff does happen, like life's ascension, although in combination combined, in belief, something positive forms. A mental, meaningful connection to feelings under divinity under one's true being. Something so barbaric under this world's collapse, where everything's left off to search for help without anything painful, the only hope would be refusing somehow. I had grasped thoughts of suicide and battling into another day's confronting embrace under nothing. Looking for help with real-life, internal dilemmas blocks the discourse of one's own bleeding heart. Again, metaphorically, since so much could go wrong. A healing touch does not exist in the cold, dead, sterile environments. If one exists to defeat medicine, the best way is to understand the barbarians within is just that. Disgusting lack of concluding that the ocean beyond the waves is what could be better in the future. But not for me, since the collapse may be even scientifically. The booster shot bashed in is to take a baby, say chit, 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 and give it a disease.